It's important. And here is my presentation. A little background about myself and how this all got started. So, guys, welcome in. My name is Jay Lugo. I'm a helicopter flight instructor in the Central Florida region. Um, kind of hooked up with these guys online, Michael and John. And as we're doing these groups, I had just become a FAA safety rep, and I pitched the idea to both John and Michael to see if we could kind of join up the helicopter community. So here we are on our first of hopefully what's going to be many of these webinars, just trying to rally everybody in the helicopter industry and get us all together. I know the fixed wing guys do this in the seminars, they do this in webinars, but we just don't have a lot of representation. So just trying to basically get us all together here. So let's get into this helicopter aerodynamics real quick, and I'll pass it on after that to John, and then John will pass it off um, to Michael. So uh, just the basics. Always good to go back to the basics. We're talking about hovering flight and translating tendency, and just a discussion on that. You know, the basis of it. What is it? The translating tendency. It's you know um, nothing new per se, but just the drifting of the helicopter when it comes to that tail rotor is going to cause it to drift, as you can see in the illustration there, um, towards the direction of the tail rotor, where that tail rotor is pushing you to. Usually, very easily counteracted by some left cyclic. Some manufacturers, I believe Entrim does this. They'll rig to allow it to. It's the manufacturer rigs it specifically on the axis to assist the pilot, and then the Robinson product, I believe, what it does is the flight controls. There's like a little bungee cord that assists you a little bit on there. But moving on to transverse flow, right? So I like to watch these videos with uh, Justin from Helicopter Lessons on 10 Minutes or Less. And what we're showing here is with transverse flow, it's affected more on that back part of the desk. You got that air kind of coming through the front. It's not as effective on the left side. So you actually effectively you're having some more lift. Same thing when it comes to they kind of follow each other, the translating tendency. So pretty much just a touch of left cyclic will do. Once you get experience enough, uh, you'll barely even notice this. A lot of the transfer flow, as you can see, as I move on to my next slide, you'll usually feel these during when you're taking off. You're not going to feel it when you're actually coming back in. So, and moving on because we don't have a lot of time since it's supposed to be 40 minutes. We'll go into a little spinny any projection of what I'm flying right now. We'll go into induced flow. Now, believe it or not, I had an interview, and induced flow for me was the big boogeyman in the room. I don't know why. I just didn't really grasp the concept initially. And to simplify it the best, it's that vertical air that's going through the rotor. As you can see right there, it just goes on through vertically and the illustration, and then it just circulates. It comes around, circulates. That's about the simplest way I can put it. You can sit there and read the helicopter flight instructor manual, and it, it's almost confusing, honestly. But to just overly simplify it, that's in my terms, obviously, kind of got to get the disclaimer, obviously, with these seminars and webinars. Anything that the FARs and the helicopter manuals say, obviously go with that. Don't, if what we're saying here counteracts to anything of the teachings of the FAA, you would always go with the FAA's uh, documentation. So a little blanket statement there, and always use a flight instructor when you're doing flight training. And I think the last one that I'm going to cover, because we're going to breeze through this, is effective translational lift. Basically, when you're entering it into that clean air, it's between 16 and 24 knots, and I took pretty much this is straight out of the helicopter instructor manual. It was just kind of flipped in a position where you couldn't really see it. So I kind of flipped to the side so everybody could kind of read it. But down and dirty, that's pretty much all I have for you today. On my presentation, I'm gonna hand over the controls to John. So I guess I need to unmute you, and I need to make you the host. And so change host. You should have all the flight controls there, John. So take it away. Just to do a quick intro, obviously, John is a commercial pilot going for his CFI. Like I said, we met in on social media. He had a pretty good Discord study group. We've done man, how many of these have we done? Like 8 or 9?
Coming up on 8, yep.
And it's always a great time. We hope to some of you, if you're interested, jump on over there with us and kind of talk helicopter. We do it every once or at least every few weeks. We get together on there. So, all
Yeah.
right, John. So
Happy to have you.
that's your introduction. Take it away, buddy.
Thank you, Jay. And as we saw, Jay took us through the overview of powered flight from basically from a hover through the transitional lift, transverse flow effect, and into ETL. What I want to talk about is what comes next. What are our limits? And we hit manufacturers are going to produce a V&E limit chart. And so we're going to see that in all of our POHs, our V&E. How fast can we go? And why is that? And that's primarily in rotorcraft, it's due to the effect of retreating blade stall. So the question is, why is it that our retreating blade would stall, and how can a rotor system stall? And it can, and you think of it similar to what you would experience in a fixed wing aircraft, right? A rotor wing is basically this, it produces essentially the same component. It generates lift, there's an airfoil, and it acts much like a fixed wing. And as we're producing lift in a typical angle of attack where we're not exceeding the angle of attack, we have a nice attached flow. But if we increase that angle of attack, we can have some separation, some flow separation, which will limit lift production, and that increases drag. And that's generally around 15 degrees, 12 to 16 degree angle of attack. And that happens in a fixed wing just as it does in a helicopter. But why is it the retreating blade specifically? So let's talk a little bit about what the limitations of forward airspeed are. This is a phenomenon called dissymmetry of lift, which I will engage on a little bit later. But in forward flight, the advancing blade is moving with the flight direction, and it sees a higher relative wind speed, while the retreating blade, moving opposite the flight direction, sees a lower relative wind speed. So what the rotor system must do is equalize the lift to compensate for that. And I'm going to play this animation a couple times to show you what this advancing blade and retreating blade, or here's it's advancing and now it's retreating. I'm going to play this a couple times so you can kind of follow this along as I talk about the aerodynamic principles here. So to keep the helicopter level, the lift produced by both sides, it must be equal. Since the retreating blade is moving slower, it must operate as a higher angle of attack to produce the same amount of lift equally. When we reach that V&E limit, as forward airspeed increases, the relative wind on the retreating blade drops further, requiring a higher angle of attack. And we'll see that here as it comes back. We see that that ring angle of attack must increase to generate lift. And this will then, at the higher airspeed, will essentially reach our critical angle of attack beyond 15 degrees, causing that retreating blade to stall. So what are some of the factors that will cause that retreating blade to stall? A high gross weight will do it. So a high gross weight requires more total lift, meaning the retreating blade starts at a higher baseline AOA. Low rotor RPM, slower rotation means that the retreating blade has even less relative wind, requiring more pitch up to compensate for that. High DAs, the thinner air requires a higher angle of attack to generate the same amount of lift that you would have at standard sea level or air pressure. And then abrupt maneuvers and turbulence they're going to kind of act similarly, where sharp turns or quick pull-ups, they're going to increase the G load factor, and that will demand more lift, pushing the blades past its stall limit. So what are some of the symptoms, excuse me, of that retreating blade stall? And first thing we're going to experience are some abnormal vibrations, followed by an uncommanded pitch up of the nose, and then a roll towards the retreating side. So this is generally considered a self-correcting maneuver because as we pitch up, what are we doing? The helicopter's slowing down. And as we slow down, now we're reducing that angle of attack on the retreating blade, and that's ultimately the goal. But the most effective immediate action is going to be to lower the collective, and that'll reduce the pitch and the AOA of all the blades, then breaking the stall. And only after we've reduced the collective, then the pilot can add aft cyclic to slow the aircraft. So we know that the main rotor blades move to equalize lift across the rotating disc, but how did we get to this point, right? And so we got to understand that it was not understood immediately that rotor blades do not mirror lift equally. That there's a dissymmetry to lift, meaning that there's unequal lift generated across the rotor blades as they rotate. And it was a little bit of a history lesson here because I think it's kind of fun to understand how this all started and how this was understood. A fellow named Juan de la Sierra, a Spanish engineer in the 1920s, he invented the autogyro, he essentially he recognized that there was this dissymmetry to lift, and he created a fully articulated rotor system. So early rotorcraft, what would happen? Oh, so they're just gonna. So what early rotorcraft, what would happen is the blades would their rotor systems were rigid, and as we know that they would roll over, and we know that that happens. He recognized there was this dissymmetry of lift, so he attached hinges to the blades, which allow them to move up, forward, and aft, and up and down. And this allows the older rotor blades to kind of find their way through the air. So in the early 1920s, Juan de la Sierra invented the fully articulated rotor blade system, which compensated for that dissymmetry of lift. And it's thanks to Juan for solving this critical aerodynamic problem, and he paved the way for rotorcraft to evolve to what we have today. And that was just kind of a little brief overview of the dissymmetry of lift and retreating blade stall. And I'm going to let Michael Triana kind of take it from here. And Michael and Jay and I started this study group, as Jay mentioned, a couple months ago. And Michael is an active member of our study group, and we would love for you all to be as well. But we're honored to have him. He's a Black Hawk pilot, and he's served with, I believe it's 10 years now, Michael, and Warrant Officer 3 and combat pilot PIC, and he's going to teach us about some aerodynamic maneuvers in combat scenarios. So Michael, I'm going to let you take it away. Thanks for I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Excellent. Thank you for the introduction, John. Once again, I'm Michael Triana. I'm Chief Warrant Officer 3 in the U.S. Army, currently serving with 1st Air Cavalry Brigade. Today, we're going to be going over the flight dynamics of combat maneuvering flight. Now, before we begin this lesson, I'll start by saying, don't try this at home, folks. Even for trained professionals, combat maneuvering flight is one of the most difficult tasks that we do. Without deliberate risk mitigation and training techniques, the potential for controlled flight into terrain is high. However, Army aviators are excellent risk mitigators and must train to survive the toughest environments. So please, leave combat maneuvering flight to the combat trained professionals. I myself am an aviation mission survivability officer. One of my primary tasks and roles is training combat maneuvering flight to progressing pilots. With that, today we'll be discussing the flight dynamics associated with executing a dive and dive recovery. The aerodynamics experienced in this maneuver are very similar to what you'll experience in an auto rotation and apply directly to your training as a private pilot. Let's begin by discussing what a dive recovery is. The dive recovery is a break contact maneuver that allows combat aviators to quickly displace themselves from a position that has made them an easy target. This maneuver allows you to quickly lose altitude safely while also placing the aircraft behind cover, usually at an altitude of 25 feet or less, known as nap of the earth. Picture that I've included here shows you a helicopter at that altitude. Entry into a dive is accomplished by reducing the collective, accompanied by a nose-down pitch attitude of 20 to 30 degrees in a Black Hawk. I train my students to aim for 25 degrees as it allows for a 5-degree margin of error on either side and assures that we do not exceed our limitation of 30 degrees nose down. Recovery from a dive is accomplished by increasing collective and pulling back on the cyclic to level the fuselage. All combat maneuvering flight techniques begin with a reduction of collective, as you must take power out in order to bring it back in. Without sufficient collective reduction upon entry into the maneuver, a pilot runs the risk of experiencing mushing. Collective feathering in the maneuver may be required to compensate for increasing rotor RPM due to coning of the rotor system and conservation of angular momentum. And in this next section, we'll discuss mushing, coning, and the conservation of angular momentum, all of which apply not only to dive recoveries, but also to auto rotations, which you'll train regularly as a private pilot. Mushing is a temporary stall condition, typically experienced at the end of an improperly terminated high-G descent. Application of rapid aft cyclic upon termination of a dive or auto rotation without accompanying increase of collective can cause the aircraft to delay recovery of the maneuver or mush through the desired recovery altitude. This is most prevalent when operating an aircraft with high gross weight at a high density altitude. Mushing is experienced when an aircraft does not respond immediately to control inputs and continues to descend beyond the desired recovery altitude. Avoid the natural response to input more aft cyclic, as this will exacerbate the stall condition. Instead, apply a small amount of forward cyclic and increase collective to arrest your rate of descent and recover the aircraft. Smooth and deliberate control inputs when executing a dive recovery or auto rotation will mitigate the worst effects of mushing. In a dive recovery, auto rotation, or any high-G maneuver, a rotary wing aircraft will experience coning of its rotor system as G-forces build. The illustration on the right side of the screen demonstrates the difference in a rotor system when it is at flat pitch versus when it is generating lift. Figure A on the right side of the screen illustrates what a rotor system may experience in an uncontrolled dive or auto rotation. As a rotor system transitions from figure B to figure A, you will experience an increase in rotor RPM due to the decrease in lift and the conservation of angular momentum. A rotating body, such as the rotor system of an aircraft, will continue to rotate with the same rotational velocity unless acted upon by an outside force. The conservation of angular momentum is mass times angular velocity times radius squared. What does this mean in practical terms for us as pilots? Angular acceleration or deceleration occurs when the mass of a rotating body is moved closer or farther away from the axis of rotation. This is experienced in our rotor system when coning occurs. As the blades cone upwards and move closer towards the center of rotation, rotor RPM increases, and collective must be adjusted to prevent an overspeed. Upon termination of a dive-dive recovery or auto rotation, collective must be adjusted again as the rotor disc unloads. Failure to do so will either over-torque the engines or rapidly reduce rotor RPM in the case of an auto rotation. And that's all that I got for today. We covered mushing, how to enter a dive-dive recovery, coning, conservation of angular momentum. If you have any questions, we've got plenty of time to talk about it.
We have a
Yeah, there's some in
question.
the chat already, Michael. Somebody, Jan, was actually asking if mushing is related
Mhm.
to vortex ring state in any way.
Oh, no, but that's a good question to ask. So vortex ring state is, I'm trying to remember the exact definition of it, but you're essentially settling into your own dirty air
Hmm.
in a vortex ring state, or oh dang, 1 second. Try to remember the other settling with power. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So both vortex ring state and settling with power um, typically result from either formation landings, trying to land with a tailwind, when you have 20% more power or 20% power or more applied to your descent, and you have the inability to apply more power to get yourself out of it. With a vortex ring state or settling with power, we typically train that you need to increase airspeed, either forward or lateral airspeed, to get out of the dirty air that you're currently settling into. Mushing is different in that with the airflow going through the rotor system, as you try to apply that rapid aft cyclic to arrest your rate of descent, you don't have enough lift generating on your rotor blades to cause that change in velocity, that change in the rotor disc effectively. So mushing, you tell the aircraft to do something, it says, not yet, and mushes through that recovery altitude that you had intended for.
You mentioned that in formation landings, you
Mhm.
could experience VRS. Is that because of the surrounding aircraft, rotor wash intermeshing kind of with the other
Ab
aircraft?
Absolutely. So instead of settling into your own dirty air or downwash, you're settling into the downwash from the aircraft in front of you. Typically, what we train as aviators and what I try to get my guys to do is that when we're making a formation landing, I have them keep the aircraft in front of them just a little bit higher than what they are. So if you're here, I try to
Mhm.
have them put the aircraft in front of them there, so that way we stay below their rotor vortices.
Right. So let me see. So I wanted to welcome in. We have Jessica Maris here too. I just wanted to acknowledge her. I know her from she's a big name, I guess, in the FAA safety circles. I'm trying to unmute
Excellent.
her. For some reason, I'm not able to.
Hmm.
Maybe you can help me figure that out, John or Michael.
Yeah, let me see. So Jessica
And
Maris.
she was mentioning obviously, so VRS will lead you into the into selling with power, but it's not the same thing as selling power. This has been the ongoing battle. From what I understand it, first there's VRS, and then eventually you get into FWP if you don't react to it. But Jessica, you're unmuted. You can say hello.
Hello, yes. Thank you for the acknowledgement and good to see everybody. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Hi, Jessica. You taught me how to do a confined landing once.
I remember
Nice. That was
Rapo Flight
fun.
Club, baby.
Yeah, yeah, I learned. It was a good takeaway. That was a good one.
Nice.
Yeah,
Excellent. Nice to see you.
likewise. Will you elaborate though on the differences in VRS and SWP?
Yeah, VRS is strictly an aerodynamic condition that's created when a helicopter settles into its own downwash, and settling with power is a result of power mismanagement. So
Mm,
they're pretty distinct. Like the VRS is an aerodynamic thing, and settling with power is more of a judgment decision making thing.
Okay. So one kind of leads to the other, or could, I should say.
Not, yeah, it could, but not necessarily. I'd say there are conditions under which VRS can develop, and therefore those decisions have been made. So yes, it can be a decision-making issue because you needed to screw up a few steps ago in order to get yourself into vortex ring state, and same could be said for settling with power, but the FAA is trying to make a clear distinction that settling with power is not an aerodynamic condition.
Interesting. So that's something that the Army needs to catch up on with their teaching then, because they still teach us that it's more or less the same thing.
Yeah, I think the as with a lot of things in the FAA, sometimes the delivery and outreach isn't as smooth or as broad as it probably could be.
do you have a good reference or a good resource where we can kind of dig into the differences?
I don't at the moment because I'm on the go.
Sure.
I could try to dig around. Who should I contact if I do find it on my computer?
Yeah, I could put my email in there or Jay. We also put I put my Discord information in the chat. If anybody wants to join the Discord, but or my email.
Yeah, drop me your email.
Yeah, and eventually I will need everybody's email to give Wings credit for this. So we're not as sophisticated as some other webinars yet. We'll get there though. Does anybody, we have 11 minutes to go. So if any more questions, either on the chat or if you want to ask the question, just kind of message on the chat. I'll unmute you and you're free to ask.
This is a good opportunity to maybe pitch our study group, which we have
Yeah.
on Facebook. We have a helicopter pilot study group, and we try to get together once a week or twice a month or so and pick a topic from the ACS, pick specific tasks. And anybody who's in the study group joins on the Discord and has about 30 minutes to talk about their specific task, and then followed up generally with Q&A and a little discussion on how that presentation went. It's good for all students. As we know, being able to teach the subject really helps to understand mastery of the subject. And our next one coming up is on March 6th. I'm doing the Robinson safety course on March 2nd through the 5th. And then while it's still fresh in my mind, I'm gonna have a study group. We have a study group scheduled for the 6th, and I'll kind of recap on how that what is new in the Robinson safety course, what to expect for those who haven't done it, and what really the big takeaways were from the experience. So feel free to join us on Facebook and or on the Discord.
Wonderful. Does anybody, let's see, Paul G mentioned a comment. Great first webinar. That's always good to hear.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone here do fly-in meets in Florida? Jan asked. I seen a few events, Jan. If you probably the best thing is to connect on social media. I'm under the brand name Skybomb, Skaybaum, and then or go through John's study group too. That you'll see us all in there. But eventually, that is the goal to maybe start it on the website and then maybe do some events, maybe one throughout the year, or depending on how everybody's schedule shapes up, we could scale this up to us actually meeting in a location and just t talking helicopter and exchanging ideas because I think that's an invaluable thing. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, definitely. As the industry continues to develop and as drone technology continues to progress, we as a community need to come together to sort of figure out how do we best employ manned aviation assets as things like, again, drones become cheaper for use in, say, inspections or like aerial photography.
Yeah, no, totally agree. On that note, Verticon is coming up from the 9th to the 11th. This year happens to be in Atlanta. I'll definitely be over there. The 10th, I'll definitely be over there. I'll be representing the Florida Aviation Network. And so if anybody does get to make it out there, feel free to come say hi. And highly recommend it for anybody in the industry. At least, I'm not sure where everybody's located at, but anytime they try to do it, West Coast, Central, and East Coast. So at least one of those years, try to make it out there, network with our industry professionals, and definitely a good event to attend.
That's the 9th of March, Jay?
Yes, sir. 9th,
Okay.
9th, 10th, and 11th, I believe is one of the dates. There might be an extra day in there, but I'm definitely going those days.
Well, maybe you can do a study group recap of what you learned and saw at Verticon.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
I'll
great.
definitely be. I'm taking the camera. That was part of the deal with Florida Aviation Network. So I'm definitely going to be taking a lot of B-roll and meeting with one of the hosts over there, Scott Purdy, that actually travels around the nation. So maybe if I can snag some of his footage, or depending on what he records, I'd love to share it. And oh, in addition, I guess I'm terrible at self-promoting, but I do have a YouTube channel. It's under that brand name too, SKYBAUM. So I do post a lot of it's mainly entertainment, to be honest with you, not too into the flight instruction thing, just for liability and flight instructions are how I make a living. So, but but yeah, you can go on there and take a look at the content and everything. I could possibly, I don't know, put that on chat or what have you. But let's see. Um, if anybody has anything else, let's see. Trying to look for that. Why? My screen's not sharing, right? Or is it still sharing?
No, it's just you.
Mm, yeah, we do that. And forgive me, I'm still kind of getting used to the Zoom. We're gonna try to do this on Teams, the next meeting, just to see if that works a little bit better. But do y'all see that by chance? Is it sharing, guys, or no?
No, it's not.
No. Okay. You see, I gotta go back to Zoom and I guess it share. Or I might have to reclaim the host position, right? Is that probably what it is? Because I made you host. Mm, well, if it's not, let me see if I can drop the link here.
You're not host at the bottom. You should see the share button.
Yeah, I'm just gonna drop it on chat, kind of like how you did with your group. There you go. There's that. Um, Nice and easy, easy peasy. All right, so 36 after, we have exactly 4 more minutes left. If anybody has anything, I'm looking through the chat just to see if if there's anything, great answers. Thanks. I'll send something on the website. That's what Jan said. And Bob posted a link, I guess, into the difference of VRS and settling with power. But I don't see anything else. I guess with the remaining 3 minutes, what I do have, I guess from the Florida Aviation Network. Cameron, say this or not? Maybe not. I'm not the I'm not the best zoomer, I guess. Goodness. All right. So just to use my time wisely, from the Florida Aviation Network, I do want to dedicate this first webinar to Ron Timmermans and his wife Barbara, who tragically passed away on February 11th. Ron was just he was a pillar of volunteering for FAA safety, the Florida Aviation Network, AOPA, Rusty Pilots, all these great organizations, and he won CFI of the Year 2021, and he was just tragically taken away from us recently. So definitely want to thoughts and prayers to the family, and I like to dedicate this first webinar to his memory. So um, if that's if nobody have anything else, I guess we can end it on that note. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you for taking the time. I realize that on a Sunday afternoon it's lots of options, but we're glad that you came out and you were with us. So anything, Michael or John, before we close out?
No, thanks for joining us. We appreciate having your time today.
All
I
right.
second that.
All right. Take care, y'all. Thank you so much.
Everybody.